The leaked Black Ops 3 Zombies documents tell the true story of Shadows of Evil, information that we don't get in the Canorium or through in-game radios, documents and ciphers, information that without these we wouldn't know, and so including this into the Shadows of Evil storyline now gives us the full picture. And let me tell you, this is one of the most insane and cool stories told in COD Zombies. Out of any map, the one in Shadows of Evil is one of the best. So sit back, relax and drink your cup of tea. In a city called Morgue City, the Apothicons, trapped in the Dark Ether, wanting to devour and enslave all life in each dimension, understood one way to invade a dimension was to have that dimension's inhabitants perform a special invitation ritual. The Apothicons can only penetrate the time-space barrier telepathically, communicating with people in their dreams. These people were called receivers. Through dream manipulation and suggestion, they would provoke these receivers, who became obsessed with images they saw in their dreams, to craft the artifacts and objects necessary to perform the rituals in their own dimensions. The Apothicons began to manipulate people to craft artifacts such as the Beast Basin, sacrificial altars, and Apothicon Riftstones. The Keepers, watching all of this and knowing what the Apothicons were up to, trying to keep them at bay and maintain order throughout all dimensions of time and space, decide to hide in the shadows of the city, collecting any artifacts that an Apothicon receiver may have made. The Keepers collect some of the Apothicon relics from their previous attempts to invade Earth and lock them in crates sealed with their own magic, keeping them safe from the Shadow Man, who was the Apothecon's servant, their enforcer, and their manipulated ritual agents. While the Keepers preferred to stay out of sight, their presence in the city hadn't gone unnoticed, which created rumours within the population that a dark occult was operating in the city. And so, knowing they had to stay here to keep the locals safe, they built themselves an underground city beneath Morgue City. Elsewhere in Morgue City, a successful magician called Nero Blackstone is an expert in illusion, dealing in misdirection and theatrics. Wanting to one-up himself though and become a better magician, he began researching further the art of magic, delving into dark magic and occultism. Upon doing so, he came across a book. Reading it, he learned of the battle between the Apothicons and the Keepers. Reading this book gave Nero nightmares. He had visions of his future and the Shadow Man's influence, unknowingly becoming his receiver. As some time passed, Nero eventually married one of his assistants. However, due to his job, no matter what he did, she complained it was never enough for her. If he was busy, he wasn't paying her enough attention. If he wasn't busy, he was lazy. She complained and she spent his money. As Nero was born into a prosperous and wealthy family, he often felt a sense of entitlement, which made him anxious about asking for help. Slowly, his marriage began to fall apart. Nero began to grow a lack of self-worth, causing him to perform a magic trick that normally he would never think of doing, and, well, he shouldn't have, because it ended up landing him in a coma. While in hospital, Nero's popularity began to sink further, causing him to become crowned Worst Magician of the Year by the Magician's Weekly magazine. Jack Vincent had a career as a police officer in Morgue City, rising up the ranks as he busted Sal Lucas liquor joint and Albert Arlington after a failed LA bank heist. In the line of duty, Jack was shot 3 times. Even though he survived, his wife's disloyalty would send him off the rails, turning him crooked. An up-and-coming boxer in Morgue City named Floyd Campbell was given the opportunity to go up against the reigning champion by defeating the #1 contender, Tony King. Campbell, who hadn't fought in 18 months, promised his promoter that the outcome wouldn't be in any doubt. Jessica Rose worked as a burlesque dancer in Morgue City's Black Lace Club. Though she dreamed of becoming a famous Hollywood star, she would do anything to make it happen, going as far as engaging in a sexual relationship with a film producer. On December the 31st, 1943, the Shadow Man, posing as someone called Mr. Rapt, told a reporter to travel to Morgue City to take in the sights, sound and smells. After spending a couple of weeks in the city, a meteor shower rains down, causing mold to show up and a strange kind of fungus to grow all over the city. Then, people started getting sick. At first it just made them delirious and confused, but then they got really sick.
Hey, Mr. Rapp, just checking in. So I'm here, finally. Taking in the sights, sounds, and smells of Morgue City. I know you sent me here to write a piece about the city's bustling nightlife and theater scene, and the characters that inhabit it, but things are getting kind of strange. Even though no one seems to want to talk about it, something is definitely off about this city. Just last week there was a meteor shower. A freaking meteor shower. And everybody acted like it was no big thing. Then, the mold showed up. All over the city. In the dark, damp alleys, there's a strange kind of fungus growing. It looks weird and smells even weirder, but nobody really says anything. Then people started getting sick. At first it just made them delirious, confused. Then they really got sick. It was like they were wasting away. People finally started talking about it. I spoke to one guy in his 80s, a fruit seller, at the local market. He said something similar happened in New England in 1882. When I tried to press him on it, he just lowered his head and ignored me. If you ask me, something definitely ain't right here.
As precursor to the Apothecan invasion, the Shadow Man had begun turning the humans into Apothecan slaves by planting fungus pods throughout the city, which released their transformational spores into the atmosphere, turning people into mindless zombies. His reason for turning the city's population into zombies is that fear would help draw dimensional creatures, known as gateworms, into this reality. The gateworms had the ability to bend space and time, but first they must be lured into each dimension and then brought together to channel their energy to the Apothecan Riftstone to open the dimensional gateway, which would allow the Apothecans to invade. The reporter in Morgue City spoke to a local fruit seller who was in his 80s, who had told him that a similar meteor shower had happened in New England in 1882. However, when the reporter tried to press him on it, he just lowered his head and ignored him. The next day, the reporter went by the local market again, where this time the fruit vendor told him that when he was a boy, his uncle would get drunk and start talking about how a dark force cast its shadow over the city, how good and evil were battling right on their doorstep, and that the only thing holding back the forces of the apocalypse was the ancient order of the Keepers. Asking around some more, the reporter heard more than a few whispers about this ancient order and the Keepers, leading him to believe it was some kind of cult. The locals said they can hear them chanting sometimes from beneath the city.
Hey, Mr. Rapt. So, I went by the market again today. For some reason, the fruit seller was much more talkative, even if what he said was more than a little crazy. He told me that when he was a boy, his uncle would get drunk and start talking about how a dark force cast its shadow over the city, how good and evil were battling right on our doorstep, and that the only thing holding back the forces of the apocalypse was the ancient order of the Keepers. Well, even if what he said was more than a little crazy, I'm not sure he was. Even though they're scared, or maybe because they are, people are talking more. Asking around, I've heard more than a few whispers about this ancient order and the Keepers. I think it's some kind of cult. They say you can hear them chanting sometimes, from beneath the city. There's all these rumors about human sacrifices and freaky shit that even the police won't investigate. Because they've been paid off, or because they're too damn scared. I'm not sure what to believe anymore.
Mr. Rapt, or the Shadow Man, then tells the reporter to track down 4 people living within the city: Floyd Campbell, Jessica Rose, Nero Blackstone, and Jack Vincent. Over the next few months, the reporter gathers enough information on them and sends a telegram to Mr. Rapt providing their details.
Hey, Mr. Rapt. So I tracked down all the people you asked me to look into. I sent you a telegram with all their details, all their contact numbers. But I gotta be honest, I'm getting nervous. These last 6 months you've had me working like a low-rent private dick, when really I just want to be a reporter. It's not that I'm ungrateful. I know the checks you've given me have been more than generous for services rendered. It's just all this stuff you've had me do. Tracking down ancient artifacts in the South Pacific, finding all these strange metals and rocks in Russia. And still, I haven't even met you face to face. I'm sorry, Mr. Rapt. I think maybe the mood in the city is getting to me a little. Making me nervous. Antsy. Anyway, I'm looking forward to you finally getting here.
Now, aware of the Shadow Man's actions, Dr. Monty writes to the reporter, warning him not to give the summoning key to anyone. Because if you don't know, previous to this, the Shadow Man sent the reporter to multiple places across the world, collecting different artifacts, and one of the artifacts he collected was the summoning key, bringing it back with him to Morgue City. Anyway, now with all of the background information he needed, once Nero had come around from his coma, the Shadow Man, pretending to be a company executive, tells Nero's lawyer that Nero's wife has taken out a substantial loan in his name. Nero has 15 days to settle before the company seeks reparation.
As you can see, these documents give some indication as to the considerable amounts of money we are talking about.
My client would never have signed the authorization on these loans.
Nonetheless, there it is, in black and white, signed by Mrs. herself.
Nero's family estate is not what it once was. Even if these documents are genuine, we'll need some time to get our affairs in order.
I would advise your client that our company intends to aggressively pursue settlement within 1 week. 15 days at the most.
Look, I need to make a call. My secretary will see you out.
Facing multiple debts due to his wife's spending habits, Nero decides to sort the problem himself. Next, masquerading as an internal affairs officer, the Shadow Man tries to convince Jack Vincent's partner to admit that Jack is on the take.
Please understand that you yourself yourself are not under any suspicion at this time. This is merely an informal interview.
Yeah, I know. Can we just cut to the chase?
The chase? Excellent metaphor. Or is it an allegory? I can never remember the difference.
You want to know about my partner, Jack Vincent.
You're a good detective.
So what do you want to know? That he's a loudmouth, show-off, more than a little rough around the edges? That he's a drinker, smoker? How about the fact that he's got a wife that scares him more than any fucking criminal out there? What do you want me to tell you?
Is Jack Vincent on the take?
Listen, the more I talk to you, the more I'll get a reputation around the precinct. Can we maybe do this elsewhere?
Upon learning that Internal Affairs is snooping around, in order to avoid arrest, Jack plots to kill the snitch who could provide evidence against him. The Shadow Man then poses as a film director interested in hiring Jessica for a leading role, and he tells her producer that the part is hers.
As you know, I'm looking to cast the female lead in my new picture. And I heard that you have quite the roster of up-and-coming talent in this town.
Can you maybe tell me a little more about what kind of woman you're looking for?
I'm looking for an all-American girl, a real beauty. I heard you may know an aspiring actress by the name of Jessica Rose.
The burlesque dancer? She ain't exactly peaches and cream. More sugar and spice.
I heard she's a real firecracker, if you know what I mean. I'd like to meet her. Give her a screen test.
Leave it with me. I'll get back to you.
Afraid that a photographer who has compromising pictures of her could jeopardize her chance of stardom, she asks him to meet her so that they can sort stuff out. Then, posing as a journalist, the Shadow Man suggests Floyd Campbell is a journeyman fighter to his promoter.
Putting aside your enormous self-interests as a promoter, what would you like to say to boxing fans everywhere about the upcoming fight? Particularly with regard to this last-minute substitution. Floyd Campbell?
I'd like to say that Floyd Campbell is a credible opponent, despite how the bookies may see it.
What about the fact that fans would much rather see the number one contender facing off with the champion, your champion, as opposed to this little herd of journeyman fighter?
Look, there's no doubt that Floyd Campbell is the underdog. Nevertheless...
Are you using Campbell to keep your big money maker away from opponents who could be just a little too dangerous?
The champ doesn't avoid anyone. But nothing. This interview is over. No further questions.
Wanting to guarantee a shot at the title, Floyd decides to wear brass knuckles under his gloves for his big fight against Tony King. A day later, Nero's lawyer tries to call him, informing him that the signature on the loan documents were forged by his wife.
Nero, I have the most wonderful news. The loan documents were fraudulent. Well, your wife was fraudulent. She forged your signature on the loan agreements, and we can prove it. The date on the forms says November 5th last year. Exactly the same time that you were in the hospital following your performance of The Amphibious Man. You couldn't possibly have signed those papers. You were in a coma for the entire month.
However, Nero missed this call and continued on to kill his wife in a work accident, cashing in a life insurance policy to square away the debt. That same day, Jack's partner gives him a call, telling him he has his back with Internal Affairs and he has nothing to worry about.
Hey, Jackie, it's me. Some suit from Internal Affairs came by today, asking a whole bunch of questions. I didn't say shit, because I don't know shit. As far as I can tell, you're in the clear. I trust you, Jackie. You're my best friend. You're like a brother. I just wanted you to know that I got you back. Always.
But Jack missed this call and continued to kill the snitch who could turn him over to Internal Affairs. Floyd's promoter gives him a call, telling him that the fight was a success and that he has a true shot at the title.
Hey, Floyd, you did good. You kept your word, delivered the knockout. I just wanted to tell you not to worry about any fucking journalists or commission investigations. That shit is done. Anyways, besides setting your mind at rest, I wanted to give you the good news. It's all set. You got it, Floyd. You got your title shot. January 15th.
But because Floyd missed this call, in the ring with the brass knuckle gloves, as well as the referee turning a blind eye, Campbell comes out on top as the winner, but leaves Tony King fatally injured. Jessica's producer calls her, telling her he didn't have a good feeling about the director, and it didn't work out. However, he scored her a lead in a musical he and his partner are financing.
Hey, Jessica. A movie director came by to talk to me today, said he wanted to meet you. I gotta be honest, I didn't get a good feeling from him. I told him where to go. Well, not in so many words. Listen, I'm glad you didn't sign that studio contract. Truth is, I'm not even much of a producer. I'm more of a talent wrangler. Here's the thing. My partner's written a musical that just got financing. I know that you're going to be perfect for the lead. This time next year, you're going to be on Broadway, baby!
But Jessica misses this call, continues to kill the photographer, and secures the incriminating photographs. The next day, after learning the reporter had the summoning key, Richtofen travels to Moog City and confronts him. The reporter waves Dr. Monty's letter to Richtofen and ordered him to stay away before attacking him. Richtofen kills the reporter in self-defense, but was unable to retrieve the artifact as the crate containing the summoning key had been locked away by the keepers using their ancient magic. Several days later, Floyd Campbell, Jessica Rose, Nero Blackstone and Jack Vincent all congregate at the burlesque, where all of a sudden they are knocked unconscious, only to awaken in a twisted version of Moog City, shifted slightly from reality. The Shadow Man marks the four on their hands with beast symbols and makes contact, telling them they can only atone for their sins by following his orders. The Shadow Man appears to them in his apparitional form, resembling a human, but is made from dark energy constantly shifting between dimensions, communicating to his targets directly in their minds. He manipulates them into performing the invitation rituals. The rituals can only be performed by those enchanted with the beast, a mixed life form, half human, half apothecon. The four use the power of the beast to break open all of the crates that were sealed by the Keeper's magic. As the Keepers try to stop them, they obtain the summoning key from one of the locked crates. Jessica then starts her ritual, sacrificing her producer. Jack sacrifices his partner, Floyd sacrifices his promoter, and Nero sacrifices his lawyer. As they are lifted up, pieces of the summoning key pierce into their victims' chests. Their energy momentarily blooms, while they explode into a bloody explosion, giving birth to the Gateworms. After completing their required rituals and summoning the Gateworms into Earth's dimensional plane, their energy is channeled and sacrificed to the Apothecon Stone Rift, which opens a rift between dimensions, allowing the Apothecons to access Dimension 63, to feast on the flesh of the living. Now realizing, hang on, this mysterious Shadow Man told us this is how we can atone for our sins, but instead we've been invaded by an alien race. Realizing they've been duped, the four then work with the Keepers to defeat the Shadow Man and his Apothecon army. As Floyd, Jessica, Jack and Nero make their way underneath the city, where the Keepers had been residing, on the walls they notice murals of what, unbeknownst to them, was the Great War. Nero tells the rest of the group that he had seen all of this play out in a book that he had read, leading them to become suspicious of him. The Keepers once had ancient relic weapons of the Keepers' 4 Archons. However, when the Keeper Archons were struck down during the fall of Ugarit, an ancient city in northern Syria, they became corrupted. But their cult recovered the corrupted Archon swords and preserved them as relics, storing them alongside eggs which contained the primordial embryos of the Archons and their next physical incarnation. Jessica, Jack, Nero and Floyd find and obtain the corrupted Keeper swords in the city and enact a series of rituals to awaken their true powers, restoring them back to their uncorrupted Keeper swords, Glaives of the Fallen. Then they get into a lengthy battle with the Shadow Man, in the end managing to defeat him and trapping him inside of the summoning key. However, just as they're about to hand it over to the Keepers to keep it safe, Richtofen steps through a portal and steals the summoning key out of their hands. He thanks the four for their efforts before leaving their dimension. Maxis then attempts to contact the residents of Moog City via interdimensional communication, telling them that their universe will be destroyed and that he is sorry.
To any survivors of this realm, I am truly sorry. I wish I could offer you some words of comfort, but I cannot. It is my hope that I can rid the universe of the evil that has plagued us for so long. But in my heart, I know many more dimensions will be lost forever as we continue our journey towards peace. Forgive me.
The next day, the Apothecons destroy Dimension 63 and its inhabitants, including Jack, Floyd, Nero, and Jessica.